Hello, everyone. My name is Julie McVey, and this is Unordinary Made Ordinary, where we talk about extraordinary experiences of everyday people. And today, our guest is Chris Batts. Welcome to the program, Chris.
Hello.
So glad you can be here. We don't have a whole lot of time, so we're going to get right into it. Can you share just a little bit about yourself, a little background on who is Chris?
Okay, Chris is my background, okay. Do you want me to like introduce myself and tell you what I do for like
Sure.
question
Whatever
about my
you feel
life or do
whatever you feel
whatever?
comfortable with. You can, where you grew up or, siblings or your career, school, that kind of thing.
Okay. So I am a published author. I am a suicide, I don't know if I can say that word, but a suicide survivor.
Cool. Okay.
And I had a near-death experience because of a suicide attempt. I guess the background on that is I had like a lot of depression since I was a little kid. And
Mm.
it started when my mom, I guess I had a lot of trauma. So my mom threw me in a dumpster when I was 6 months old. And yeah, and
Ah,
and I was like 5 or something when my grandma explained the situation to me. She said my mom was like about to go to modeling school and stuff. She was going to get like a good little thing going with her modeling, I guess.
okay.
And but then what ended up happening is she met some guy, she gets pregnant, and
Oh,
maybe after having me 6 months later, maybe the mom, what is it called? Like the post trauma, the post syndrome.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, like the post
I know what you're
motherly
talking
syndrome.
about. And
Yeah,
for
yeah,
some
yeah,
reason, I
yeah,
can't think of it. But yes, after you have
yeah.
a baby, the depression.
Right. So maybe that's what happened because she threw me in a dumpster like out of nowhere, whatever.
Whoa.
So yeah.
Okay.
So the thing was she just left and she didn't come back. The neighbor was taking out her trash and she looked in the trash because she heard a baby crying, which it was me. So then
Oh my God.
she takes me out of the trash can and says, "Oh my God, I know him." So she takes me to her house because she knew my mom.
Whoa. Okay.
So she knew my grandma usually goes to church around these, it was like a Wednesday, I guess, and my grandma's usually at church around this time. So she knew my grandma wasn't home, so she called my grandma's church. Of course, this was before cell phones, way before, so you can't just like send a text so she had to
Yeah.
actually call the church, and
Right.
then the people actually had to go get her. She answers the phone. They're like, "We have your grandson and you need to come get him." And
Okay.
basically never let his mom have him.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my grandma came to get me and she had me tell, they went through the whole court situation.
Okay.
Dad wasn't around. Um, so my grandma had me up until I was 4 years old
Okay.
or three and a half, something like that. I was like three or something because she had a nervous breakdown and then
Oh.
she was in the hospital for a year. So then that's when I ended up going a couple other places. Then I ended up with
Okay.
my mom's sister and their family, which this sister she didn't like more than all of them. Like this was her least favorite sister, and
Mm.
she told me how the sister was mean to her all the time,
Okay.
which was believable because being at this place,
Mm.
they had kids of their own, but it seemed like I was basically the outside child, right? So you're
Mm.
not treated as well as the others. You're seen
Yeah.
as the trash, I guess you could say.
Mm.
Yeah, they would say certain things like they treat me like a son and stuff like that, but we all know it wasn't anything like that. So I
Mm.
had a lot of depression. I was always like locked up in my room.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, yeah, so I wasn't really allowed to come out when other people are out. So I'm just like locked up in my room a lot. Even like sometimes I would go in the bathroom to drink water just so I didn't have to go in the kitchen while they were in there. So they
Mm.
won't have to like start talking
Wow.
crap to me. Um, Pretty much I was like chubby, so they would always like rank on my weight all the time. And I guess that caused a lot of weight issues. Like even till this day, I don't want to get like too fat because then I'll be like, oh no, like I'm fat. I
Huh.
seen to this day it still affected me. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, it was like a lot of depression. I say around like maybe 9 years old or 10, I started writing music. Like I was
Oh.
writing whole songs to get myself through the
Wow.
depression. So
Like
from
lyrics and music or
well, no, I can't write like the music where you play, but like lyrics, like rap lyrics.
okay,
So
okay,
I was
cool.
writing
Wow.
actual songs, and I
Beautiful.
noticed I was
Mhm.
right, and I noticed I was like really good at it.
Mm,
And I was seeing my grandma one day, and then like a few years later, I was maybe like 13, maybe 14, I'm not sure, but the people there went through my stuff because I would visit on the weekends, my grandma, my other uncle, and stuff like that, like sort
mhm.
of just to get away from this house. And I guess just so happened I'm at my grandma's house and they called her and said, we went through his stuff, we seen and we found some lyrics, which if they probably remember, it probably they seen the dried up teardrops on those pieces of paper. And it was
Yeah.
saying a bunch of stuff about the family, how much I like hated them. I like said a bunch of things like it was bad, a bunch
Okay.
of bad stuff about them. So pretty much they
Man.
so then I went to a couple other places. Fast
Mhm.
forward, I was in high school now. High school was good. Like I was popular.
Okay.
All the depression went away. Like high school was my friends, my
Wow.
family,
Okay, good.
right? After high school is over, your friends move on. You don't really have the same things your friends do. You don't have that family that
Yeah.
supports you and backs you like they did. So they're going off to like these different colleges and then they're getting help getting their first cars and their houses
Mhm,
and
mhm.
apartments and their first jobs even and like just stuff handed to them or they get that little boost. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have that
Yeah,
little boost. It was just
right.
me and a bunch of family members that say they care about you, but yet you go years and haven't even heard from these people. So how can they care about you?
Right.
Yeah, but it's weird with their kids. They kept in touch with them. I'm just saying, you know.
Yeah. Mhm.
So yeah, so the depression came back, and the self esteem I had, it kind of affected like the girls I dated, the women I dated, even as an adult. It affected the friends I had around me. I noticed like a lot of stuff was not normal. Like it's not normal to have this amount of friends that don't really care about you and you know they don't, but yet you're around them anyway. I don't know. So I happened to be at a friend's house one day. We were arguing and I just left. I was like, you know what? I'm out of here. I left. They knew this was like one of the only people that knew about my suicidal thoughts. And they knew what I was going to do when I left. So as soon as I left and they were in the bathroom. They went in the bathroom. I just took off and left because I already had in my mind, I'm out of here.
Mhm.
Previous years, I was like doing like a bunch of like different type of drugs and I was drinking every day. And there's a whole bunch of stuff like that I got bored of after a few months. I was like, okay, this liquor doesn't work. These pills don't work. This doesn't work. This doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'm bored. I got to get out of here. Depression came even more and I just planned like a suicide. I'm like I'm just going to
Mm.
jump in front of the train tracks and when when you're depressed, your
Yeah.
emotions are numb. So you don't really like care. Like time is nothing to you. So I was at the train tracks for like a long time just timing every single train instead of looking at the schedule. So I'm timing every single train. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take this time on this day and
Mhm.
that's I'm just gonna lay down and just let it take me out. Just let
Mhm.
the train come and boom, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Smooth sailing. It won't be like that bad. So, but I left my friend's house and they knew what I was gonna do. So I just heard their car. They're like, get in the car, get in the car.
Okay.
Right. So then out of all the times in the world, my mom calls me. And I haven't heard from my mother in years, like years, years. Last time I talked to her before that, she says, if you have grandkids, don't tell them I'm their grandparents because they're not mine, because you're not my son. I
Oh
never
my
wanted
God.
you. Right. So, like, thanks, mom.
It's
So this is the last conversation we had. So in the mind of a suicidal person already, they're already planning their suicide.
yeah.
And then you hear from your mom right when you're about to do this.
Yeah.
She calls me. So I'm like,
Wow.
maybe this could change my mind. So I'm
Right.
like, right.
Right.
Like this could be the one thing to change my mind.
Right.
Wrong. She says the way I got your number was because your grandma gave it, which was her mom. She said,
Okay.
your grandma gave me your number,
Okay.
and she told me you were asking about me.
Okay.
I called you to tell you, stop asking about me. I'm not your mom. She's like, I don't want you. I never wanted you.
Oh
Forget
my,
about
this
me.
is crazy. Okay.
So she goes again. She goes, I'm not your mom. So that's when I just looked at the phone and said, the F you never were.
Mm,
Rolled down the window, tossed my phone out.
mhm.
My friend that's in the driver's seat, the one that tells me get in the car, right?
Yeah.
She makes a right turn.
Okay.
Boom. I open the door. Bow. Well, first things first, I looked at my friend and I said this, and I just opened the door and jumped out. Boom. Head hits the concrete.
Oh gosh.
Then,
Okay.
yeah,
So you're driving along. How fast do you think you guys were going? And she turns.
I was asked that question so many times, and I'm gonna say I do not know. My mind was definitely not
Mm,
on the speed limit.
mm.
My mind was just
You
on.
were,
I
yeah.
just know
Yeah.
as soon as they turned, they went like a few feet. Then I just said F this and I jumped out. But it
Wow.
must have been fast enough because I
You s-
died.
okay. Wow. So you hit the concrete. Your head, you said hit the concrete?
The back of my head make this like boom sound on the concrete.
Okay.
And it sounded familiar like when I was a kid. I was like 3 or something and I fell off a tricycle and I hit the
Mm,
back of my head.
mm, mhm,
Of course, I don't really remember that, but I just know it happened
mm, mhm.
because you know of stories they tell you when you're growing up.
Yep.
So for some reason that boom, it sounded in the feel of the concrete. It was like deja vu.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
sounded so familiar. I was like, this seems familiar. This happened before.
Interesting. Okay.
So I try to get up and something's like, I wouldn't do that if I were you.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, well, I don't really know who to listen to, you know? So I'm like, well, I'm just going to try it. I'm going to get up. I'm just going to get up and walk home. That's what I thought. I didn't know I was outside of my body, but I was. So I was like, I get up and I'm pushing, and something's trying to keep me down. And I'm like, ugh, and I finally just yank myself up. But as soon as I get up, I look down and see a body laying on the floor and it's mine. And I'm like, how the how am I laying here, but I'm standing here? I'm
Mhm.
thinking I'm hallucinating. So I'm like, no, this is just some type of hallucination. I'm gonna keep walking home. So
Wow.
about 3 steps later, nothing, void and everything.
Okay.
And there's this event that happened. And so now I'm like in a void. I don't see anything. I just feel supreme the most supreme entity that you can ever feel. You know that it's that one God slash source slash
Mhm.
whatever you want to call it. You just know, like there's no doubt to it. Didn't speak in words. I didn't see a face. I didn't see a body or anything.
Mm,
Just you felt it. So then it's
mm,
just like everything is saying is going here, just like lightning, just after every sentence. So a lot of the words, like a lot of the questions that were in my head got answered right away. So
mm,
it was like, I am God. Yes, I am real. Yes, angels are real. They're a gift from me.
mm.
Want to meet them? And I was like scared out of my mind. So I'm like, no, I didn't want to meet angels because I didn't know they existed. I thought it was something just for TV. So I'm like, okay, but with this entity telling me this, I'm like, and my questions being answered right away, I'm like, uh-oh. So then I take the let me reintroduce myself as I see certain characteristics of this entity, God. And it was just in big words. And one word said loving, and then one word goes by that says caring. And then the last word that goes by is all capital letters and says long suffering
Hmm.
with exclamation points at the end. And I
Mhm.
remember the word long suffering as a kid in church when they
Mm.
would say long suffering.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I didn't read the King James Bible because I had certain doubts. I read the Bible, the whole book twice, and I just had certain like from Genesis to Revelation, I read it like twice, and I'm like, I just had certain doubts. I would be at church and ask pastors certain things, and they would always tell me, don't question God.
Hmm.
So I'm like, well, why can't I question God? Why do I have to be scared of God? They want you to be like scared of God. I always had like my own thoughts about religion, especially growing up in it. So my thought was, I'm just gonna burn in hell as soon as I die. But
Mm.
the as bad as my depression was, I didn't care. I'm like, anything has to be better than this.
Mhm.
So I see this like projector screen. A lot of people see life reviews. I didn't. It was just like a projector screen. And there was a video. Here's this guy walking like with a briefcase and a suit. And then God says, I love him. And then here's this prostitute. Like I said, it was prostitute walking, um, and he says, I love her. Then you see this guy with a big joint in his mouth on a skateboard, just riding a skateboard, and he's like, I love him. I took that as like, I love them all the same. I don't have favorites. Be like a prostitute, you're smoking a joint, or you're a business guy in a suit. I love them all the same. That's how
Yeah.
I took that. He didn't
Yeah.
say those exact words, but that's how I took it.
Right.
Like, okay, I love them. So, oh, and how can I not forget this? Um, I look at him, I say, what am I supposed to do when I go back? And like tell people, they're gonna think I'm crazy. And he says, go and tell everyone that I love them. So he's like gets down on a knee. I didn't see a body again, but I felt him get on a knee and then just feel these arms around you and squeeze you like as tight as he could. It felt like safe. You didn't want it to be let go. Then he looks at me and says, or I feel him look at me and says, um, you have so much to do. Oh no, this was the angels. They told me you have so much to do for so many people. But before that, God says, go and tell everyone I love them. And then he says, I will go to the end of the world so that everyone is with me.
Mm.
That's what he said. And I remember at that thought, I just wanted to like go and run and like tell everybody like God loves you, God loves you. Um, so snap of a finger, now I'm like in like a mid-air. Now I'm not in the void anymore. I can see everything around me. So it's like I see my body laying on the floor. I see the one the friend I was with way far away from me on their phone, and then the paramedics and everything. So then I'm literally I can see angels all around. So with these people, I actually seen these entities, and they were huge. And I just remember seeing a bunch of Bibles being thrown everywhere and crosses being thrown everywhere.
Mm.
And that's my own thoughts because I thought I would burn in hell for not believing everything the King James Bible version says, because
Mm.
that's what I was taught. So I can actually know that was my own thoughts. So then I'm looking, I see angels everywhere. And there's just two in particular that I remember that I not remember, but they seem familiar. And one's on my right, one's on my left. Huge. They were like maybe almost 9 feet tall, about 8'6". Wings were huge, and they were both dudes. Uh, the left angel was more like a, and then whenever I say kind of like a beetle face kind of thing, people like get the wrong impression. Like that's devil. Like it wasn't the devil. It was just kind of like a beetle type face. I didn't get the clearest view of his face because of the sun. The sun was just. It was like his face was like looking at the sun.
Mm.
So it's
Okay.
like I couldn't really see all the way in his face because I had to like there was so much light beaming down from him. I couldn't look all the way. And so I look at my right, and this angel was more human though. He had a human face, curly hair. He had on a red flannel shirt, and the sleeves were rolled up to his elbows. He had on blue jeans and brown sandals
Hmm.
with his wings, and
Hmm. Okay.
um, and he was like buff. He was like really huge. He reminded me of a construction worker. You can call him like more of the brawny paper towel guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also like to compare him to if you watch that show, I like to compare him to Dan Connor from
Oh,
the
yeah.
Roseanne show.
Hmm.
That's exactly like who he reminded me of, just like really huge. I want to go to the gym when I saw him. Um yeah, so but
And the
so
other guy was not burly like that.
no, the other angel was like he was huge. He was like tall, but more like thinner. The
Okay.
one on my right was just more like huge.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I know which one will kill me, which one won't. Like I thought I was just gonna die, But
Oh, oh
because
my.
like
Okay.
I was scared of angels. I didn't know I
Huh.
wasn't used to angels. And then
Yeah.
what my religions taught me, if you see anything like this, it's a demon. Because
Oh, okay.
God doesn't let you see stuff like this. This is the stuff I was taught in my churches. Don't
Oh,
question God. Like, you know, if it's not in the King James version, then that means it's not good. It's
ooh,
of the devil.
gotcha. Okay.
Right. So when you grow up in religions like that, you fear everything that's in spirit. And
Hmm.
yeah, so the angel on my left says, he said, he looks at me and says, "Are you sure you want to go?" With like a stern voice. Like, "Are you sure you want to go?"
Hmm.
Like, because I tried to kill myself. So then I look over because his tone kind of scared me and I thought I was gonna die already. I'm like, "Don't do that. I'm new here. You got to be gentle with me." So I looked to my right. I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna look this way now." So I looked to my right, and then this angel, the big stocky one, I was like, "Oh, he's gonna kill me for sure."
Oh my
But then,
goodness.
but then he has the softest voice. He goes, "You have so much to do for so many people,"
Mm,
and I'm like, "Me? I have so much to do for so many people," and they're like, "Yeah." So they tell me, "Look down." I look down, and here's my body. Here's my friend over this way, paramedics over here. And they're like, "No, you need to look again. You need to know that this happens."
mm,
Proof that angels know your thought process. They
mhm,
knew I have trust issues. Even though this is happening, if I wake up, I'm still going to say that was just a hallucination. They
mhm.
know me, they know how I am. So they're like, "No, you need to look down again because you need proof." And they were right. So I
Yeah.
look down again and like a camera just zooms in right to my body and
Hmm,
there I am just on the floor. And I'm like, so this stuff really does happen. And
hmm.
that's when there was this big donut hole in a cloud. Had I crossed that cloud, then I probably would not have came back.
Mm,
So they were trying to, I guess, sort of convince me why I shouldn't cross that hole yet.
mhm.
And but like I
Yeah.
said, that's when I looked down and they asked me, they're like, "So do you want to stay or do you want to go?" And I just felt this urge to come back, and
Mm,
I didn't know why. I just knew I needed to come back.
yeah.
So I said I'll come back, and that's when I woke up a few days later in the hospital in intensive care.
Oh,
Uh-huh. And the
so were
nurses
you
called me
unconscious for how long?
for a few days, and
Whoa.
the nurses were saying I was gone for a few days, and they kept calling me Miracle because they didn't think I was coming back.
Oh my. Okay.
Like,
Wow.
you know how you watch the TV shows and then you'll see that emotional episode where person's in the hospital and like they're in a coma, and then here's people coming to visit and pray for them that they'll wake up and all that. And the
Yeah.
person like will finally come out of the coma and they're like, "Oh my God, like you woke up." It was like that.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's that's scary. You kind of had a scary experience, but transformational. Um, so now what are your thoughts on angels now, or do you still see these two angels ever?
I don't see them. I hear from them and I laugh because after my experience and I started really trying to pay attention to spirit and getting opened and awakened and everything, I started seeing certain things and that scared me. I'm like, I don't want to see anything. If you guys are going to talk to me, but do not let me see you. Like I don't want to see evils. I don't want to see good spirits. If I could feel it, just talk to me. I'll feel it. I could feel bad. I can feel good. So I know like where evil spirits lurk.
Okay.
I can feel where a bunch of light is. So, but
Mhm.
as long as I don't see it, I'm fine.
So do you see them or no? You don't.
No,
You just sense, okay, you haven't. You just made it clear. Look, guys, I don't want to see you. Please don't manifest.
because
But
it'll scare me because how big they were. And it's like I'm not used to that. So this world, and if I see an angel, I'm not used to seeing them. So
sure.
I only seen them like once. So I'm like, look, That one time was enough for me to last for a lifetime.
So it sounds like you're energetically sensitive to the spirit world, in any case. So negative energy, positive energy. Is that how you would put it?
Yeah, you could say that.
Hmm. And you weren't this way before the accident?
No,
Oh, okay. So this
no.
is something, because I've heard that a lot of people, when they come back, they do have like gifts, like psychic types of gifts.
Yeah, and that's very true. It's something about you're like you become really like magnetic, if that
Mm,
makes sense. Your energies
mm.
is for some
Intensified.
reason way more. For some reason, it's easier for spirit world to contact you, easier for
Uh,
you to contact spirit world. It's so much different. You have certain gifts. You might learn things faster and better. You
oh,
see things in life faster and better. Like even me being in school, I can basically learn so much easier
wow.
now than I
Really?
did then.
Well, that's great. I
Only
mean,
thing is I can't wear watches now. And I used to always wear watches. I loved watches.
wow. Because they break, right? Or something, or they stop working.
They stopped working. So
I interviewed another person that said this.
yeah,
It
they
had an
always
NDE.
I had new batteries. I've had new watches because I'm like, maybe it's just a watch. Then I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's just the battery. I
Yeah.
tried the whole thing. It always goes out. It just stops working.
Wow. That is so strange to me. I mean, but and then I asked her about it. She said, "Oh yeah, other ND people that they can't wear watches." I'm like,
For
"What?
sure.
That is so interesting
Yeah.
that you
I
have
think it has a lot to do with the energies and the electricity. I think it's just your vibrations go into they're too
wow.
much for
Hmm.
like an electronic type of thing like a watch. Like,
Interesting.
yeah.
That is so cool. Well, I mean, probably not cool for you because now you can't wear watches, but
Yeah.
gosh, there's so much. Now, how old were you when this happened? How many years ago?
Wow. I was 20. Ooh, wow. I believe I just turned 24. Yeah, I was
Okay.
24.
Hmm.
So that was almost 10 years ago.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then, and you did explain that you had kind of a religious upbringing that was not any help to you during this experience. But now, what are your feelings about religion and spirituality and heaven and hell?
A lot of people and okay, a lot of people find God through religion. And that's good. That's great. Personally, I'm totally against religion. I would never want to experience anything like it again because
Mm.
to me, it's like a cult. Religion messed me up for a long time. It took me to die for me to understand that God loves us all. My own
Wow.
religion didn't tell me this. My religions told me you have to be perfect. And if you're not, you're going to burn for eternity. If you're not saved, even though these same people telling you to go in front of the church and be saved,
Hmm.
and you don't know what they do behind their closed doors.
Hmm.
And I've been to churches where pastors have been caught having like affairs with the other church members and all types of stuff. But these are the same people that are telling me because I didn't go up in front of the church, in front
Hmm.
of everybody, and start crying and acting fake that
Hmm.
I'm gonna burn in hell.
And so now, I mean, it sounds like even before you were a little skeptical on how this all worked, but now you're just like, no, that's absolutely not my thing anymore. And so how do you practice? Do you practice? Do you pray? Do you meditate? What is your spiritual practice?
You can say pray is just I guess funny because the word pray it just brings back religion and I try to like
Sure.
away from religion every time, but what I
Yeah.
definitely do every day, and a lot of people don't know this, but like 24 hours a day I'm always meditating and meditation with God and
Ah,
angels and spirits 24/7. It just doesn't stop.
wow. Okay. Well, I have you heard of mindfulness? And that's kind of always being in the present. That's what sounds like what you're always mindful and present of your spiritual surroundings and your divinity or who you are in terms of your relationship with God, it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you feel loved. Do you feel like, okay, I got this. God absolutely 100% loves me?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. You know God loves you. You know that God loves not just you, but a lot of people. And it makes God very sad that
Mm,
people don't know. A lot of people think they have to be a certain way for them to be loved by God. But in actuality, it was never like that. Originally, we all are loved by God.
mm,
And God, it just makes God sad that there are a lot of people who don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. Um, have your relation, so it's been like 10 years. Have your relationships changed over the years because of this? Improved? Different
Like,
friends? New friends?
oh, you know, I lost a lot of friends after my experience.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I lost because you realize once you realize your self-worth and people know this
Hmm.
and they've been taking advantage of you, and then all of a
Mm,
sudden you come and say, like, I'm not gonna take your crap,
hmm.
they don't like that. So they just rather like, oh well, you're not gonna let me use you, you're not gonna let me take advantage of you. Well, there's no
Yeah.
reason for us to talk.
Wow. That
Hmm.
was that difficult for you, or did you go with the flow because of your profound experience?
Wow, that's a good question. I actually never been asked this question before.
Yeah,
So I
sorry.
honestly, no, that's a good question. I honestly believe that it was hard, but I didn't even recognize it until a
Mm,
while after, because I was like, wait, I didn't talk to this person or that person or that person. And then you realize how these people really are. And then
mm,
you're sort of like, man, like, how can people be so mean? Or how can people be so like careless or yeah, like careless and stuff like
right.
that. So I mean, you
Yeah.
get over it because then you meet new people
Hmm.
and you can tell someone's true intentions. That's one of the gifts that I took back was discernment. I can literally
Mm,
see like if people like you,
hmm.
you know they do. If they don't, then you know they don't. You can see their true intentions.
Mm,
So you know which friends to keep away from you.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I forgot to ask you in the hospital. So what was the problem? Was it a concussion that was the issue? Were there any physical effect, long-term effects from that?
Definitely concussion that lasted for a long time.
Mm.
Uh even changed the dreams I had the first few days too.
Mm.
Actually, when I got released from the hospital, like I was having dreams of like the first airplanes being made and like how the earth looked years and years and years ago, like before
Oh,
buildings and stuff like that. It's like basically people were working on airplanes and they were way different than they look now, you know.
that's really interesting. Any theories about that? Or why that would be?
um no, I to this day I still don't know why I had those dreams.
Wow. Okay. And so I'm into I'm into lucid dreaming and all that stuff. So that's interesting to me.
Okay.
Um, so now are you starting to meet others that have had near-death experiences like you? I know this is a more open subject nowadays, but in the beginning, I mean, did you know what a near-death experience was
No,
back then? Okay.
no, 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 no. I didn't even know this is how okay, this is how things work. After my near death experience, I started when I will, should I say when I got released from the hospital, I started looking up because like I couldn't talk, I couldn't really walk, all that stuff. So
Okay.
I was trying to just entertain myself until I start getting my senses back and coming back to normal.
Oh, okay.
Like I couldn't smell, I couldn't taste, I couldn't do any couldn't walk, I couldn't. So it was like, and like, I don't know, even
Man.
to this day, food, a lot of different food does not taste like it used to me. Like
Wow.
everything tastes, my taste is different than it was.
Oh man, that's a bummer. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm glad I got my smell.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so
I told you before the interview. Lost
yeah,
my
I would
smell.
freak out, and I would freak out if I had lost my smell.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Um,
no
so
fun.
I started looking up things, and I was looking at this one guy on YouTube that was talking about, because that's when I was looking up like the truth behind religion, the truth behind
Mm,
the Bible, the truth behind, so
yeah.
many things I was looking up had the truth behind. Like, like the truth behind school, truth behind Black history, the truth, like it was a lot. Truth behind Thanksgiving. There's so many things I was looking up. Like I want to know the real truth. And there
I
was
bet.
somebody that was talking about their story and how about stuff like the government and things like that. So I left a comment there saying how, like, oh, I had a near death, not near death experience, because I know what that was. I said something like I died, I met angels, and sort of explained it in the comment section.
Mm-hmm.
But like the same day, it ended up having like 300 likes and just this comment. And so somebody,
Wow.
like, one of the replies were like, "Hey, you should go on YouTube and look at what you had is called a near death experience, and they
Mm-hmm.
have groups for people like you."
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even have Facebook. I'm like, what the heck? So I created a Facebook just so I could find these groups. And I did find them. And then people start reaching out to me, and they're like, no, you're not really crazy. We understand you. We believe you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I started meeting people.
Wow. Okay. So very that's great. I mean, that you could do that. I've, interviewed people who've had near death experiences like decades and decades ago, and it's like crickets. I mean, there's no way to find out about it until late years and years later. So that's great. So would you consider this a blessing, in your life for you?
It's the best thing that ever happened to me. I feel like from what I gained from this, I feel like it makes up 10 times for the beginning of my life. I feel like all those years that were
Mm,
missed and they were bad and they were, I feel like now I can sort of enjoy life
mm,
more
mhm.
now.
Yeah.
And I can be a lot smarter. I can understand people a lot better. I feel like it's
Mm,
just more now, more receptive to spirit world and animals and plants and stuff that I didn't even think twice about before. I get to
wow.
actually enjoy the little things in life now. And
That's
that's, I
wonderful.
didn't get to do that before.
That's wonderful. And are you, I mean, that's alone is a wonderful benefit, um, an added beauty to your life. Are there other things that you have in mind that you want to do as a result of this experience? A specific purpose or general purpose for that matter?
I felt like when the angel said you have so much to do for so many people, I feel like I said, I didn't understand what they meant, but I feel like
Yeah.
a while ago, a while after, I started to understand. And I think my main purpose was to speak to people about
Mm,
suicide prevention.
mm,
I felt
mhm.
like that was my main purpose.
Are you speaking more, doing these kinds of things more often?
Oh, definitely. I've spoken at many conferences, been to different states, and just speaking to people about near death experiences, angels, and
Mm,
suicide prevention. But out of all of these, it's like my most favorite thing to talk about is suicide prevention. Like
mm.
it's funny, even like through my near death experience, I'm like, yeah, I had a near death experience. I'm awake, I'm all that. But whenever I talk about suicide prevention, that's when it's like a passion right there.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And you did write a book, is that correct?
I did.
And what is it about your near-death experience?
It is. It's about what led to my near death experience. It's about what I learned from my near
Oh,
death experience, how I changed before, how I changed after, how I was before. But
wow.
it also does talk a lot about the suicide rate and the
Mm,
and the thoughts, the mind of a suicidal person, and it also is
wow. Okay.
motivation to those who are suicidal.
Oh,
So it's kind of
okay.
like everything wrapped in one book.
That is cool. What is it? I'll put the link in the video description, but what's the name of it?
So the name of the book is Boom,
Boom.
and it's
Oh,
short for Boom: The Life and Times of a Suicide Near Death Experiencer.
oh,
But for
okay.
short, we just call it Boom.
Okay, I'm gonna put that link up. And then are you working on any other projects these days? I mean, I know you're in
Um,
school, right?
yeah, I'm
That's
in school. I still do, but aside from school and aside from going to work every day, um, I actually, yeah, I'm a part of a documentary that was filmed sometime last year.
okay.
Um, the producer, or should I say filmmaker's name, is James Bonato of
Okay.
James Bonato Productions. And this guy he's amazing. He flew all the way from Maryland just to interview me, all the way in California. And then he went to a few other states to just interview us in person so he could tell them. It was me and four other people. Yeah, and we talk about our near death experiences. And his purpose for this documentary is, out of all these four people, what do they have in common?
Mm, yeah.
And which is love. So that's why the
Oh,
documentary is called Peace on Both Sides of the Gate.
mm,
Hmm.
I like that. And so that is out now?
That is definitely out now. It's um the the filmmaker he released it a couple months back. I barely released it on my social media a few weeks ago.
Okay. I mean, and if you want, we can put that in the video description too, so people can check that out. It's up to you, whatever you feel comfortable with. I want people to be able to get a hold of you
Yeah, that would be great.
and connect with you. Um, I am just, we're getting kind of close to being out of time. I just don't want to forget anything. Um, is there anything else maybe on your heart that you're feeling like I really want people to know this one thing?
Um, just maybe the people that are contemplating suicide, just understand that you're important. Don't call it quits just yet, because there's something around the corner that you might not want to miss. So just sort of stick around, because not anything lasts forever. So whatever you're going through now is
Mm,
definitely going to go away. Oh,
temporary.
and change your thoughts. That's it.
Change your thoughts because you do some motivational kinds of speaking. Is that true? Or
That's true.
okay, and you do you work with kids as well? Or,
Well, at work, yeah, my career, I work with special ed
okay.
kids. So yeah, I definitely work with kids every day. But that's just my career aside from motivational speaking.
Okay. Is the motivational speaking, is that you're on your heart partly because you're trying to get people out of a negative type of cyclical thinking?
That's exactly what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, because I mean, you had a really hard situation when it sounds
Right.
like.
And that's why I
Um,
feel like I'll be a great person to do it, because what better person to actually talk to you about something than someone who's been through it
mm,
themselves, that
mm-hmm.
literally committed suicide.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's kind of like more like, well, if he can do it and he made it through, he's a motivational speaker now. What can I do?
Mm-hmm. Inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's so amazing, Chris. I really appreciate you taking time to, because I know you're so busy and you got a midterm and you have
Oh,
things to do. And I really appreciate you hanging out to share your experience and all of your experiences. And I know I just feel like you've got so much more. You're so young and you have all of this. You're just like barely starting out um, on all of the positive impact you're going to have on people's lives. This is just like a little bit of it. And it's so amazing, you know?
yeah, thank you.
So yeah, love this. Thank you again, Chris. And we are going to have to sign off. I know I don't want to, but our time is up. And I thank you to everyone watching. This has been Julie McVey with Unordinary Made Ordinary, and I hope you'll join us next time for another fascinating interview. If you did enjoy this, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like this type of content, please subscribe. And I hope you're having a fantastic day or evening, wherever you are on the planet or off the planet. And see y'all next time. Bye.